As our story begins, we see the protagonist Kelvin Celsius, who was accidentally killed by a god in his previous life and reincarnated into a new one by the goddess of reincarnation. Though he has no memories of his previous life, he gains new skills in this new world as a trade-off. Awakening in a forest, he receives a message from the goddess explaining his situation and new stats. Discovering he is a summoner, Kelvin heads to the nearby town of Parth to register as an adventurer at the Adventurers Guild. In the town, Kelvin reveals how he convinced the goddess, named Melfina, to become his companion. He had to give up his previous life memories for more skill points. He tries to summon her but learns that his magic level is too low. Kelvin successfully registers as an F-rank adventurer, choosing to hunt blue slimes as his first quest. Equipped with a wooden rod, Kelvin heads to the forest to find the slimes. Before attacking, Melfina tells him to use his S-rank skill Appraising Eye. This allows him to see the stats of anyone up to 100 levels above him. Kelvin tries to weaken one without using magic so he can tame it, but he gets hurt in the process. After a while he successfully hits one and forms a contract with it, naming it Clotho, unlocking his ability servant network, which gives the slime a personality. Together with Clotho, Kelvin earns enough gold for a room at an inn. On this way back he encounters a slave trader showcasing half-blooded elves for sale, which saddens him. The following day, Kelvin continues slaying monsters, leveling up and learning new skills. Clotho even evolves into a gigantic slime. After a week, Kelvin discovers that he has been promoted to E rank. However, Kelvin is concerned about taking on higher-ranked missions alone, and the guild receptionist advises Kelvin to upgrade his equipment before aiming for the next rank. Kelvin accepts the advice and is about to leave when a D-rank adventurer named Cashel approaches and invites him to join a quest to kill the Black Ghost Knight. After learning about Cashel's murderer title through his appraising skill, Kelvin declines Cashel's invitation but proposes a friendly competition to see who can defeat the Black Ghost Knight first. Cashel reluctantly agrees to the challenge and takes his leave. Outside the guild, Cashel meets with his two shady party members, Gimel and Raj. Gimel informs Cashel about Kelvin's stats and skills, and Cashel decides they will murder Kelvin. Inside the Black Ghost's castle, Cashel's group encounters Kelvin, who reveals himself as a wind mage, and a fight breaks out. Kelvin uses his skills to trap Raj, and Clotho stops Gimel, who is trying to flee. Kelvin and Clotho easily deal with Cashel and his party, learning they hunt new players for experience. Kelvin ties them up to turn them in later. Kelvin then faces the Black Ghost Knight, Gerard, with the intent to recruit him. During the fight, Gerard remembers his tragic past and the fall of the kingdom he served. Gerard charges at Kelvin, who binds him with his magic as Clotho fires a beam attack, defeating the knight. The following day, Kelvin successfully turns in the quest, while Cashel's group faces imprisonment for their crimes. Celebrating his victory, Kelvin is informed that he will be receiving a promotion to D rank, and we see that Gerard has joined Kelvin's party along with Clotho and Melfina. Kelvin goes to meet the guild master, Leo, to get his promotion. Upon meeting, Leo uses his appraising eye to see Kelvin's stats. During their discussion, Leo questions Kelvin about his identity as a summoner, and Kelvin is forced to admit the truth but asks why Leo didn't take action against Cashel despite knowing he was a murderer. Leo confesses that he couldn't act without solid evidence, as Cashel is a noble from the nation of Trison, but thanks Kelvin for dealing with him. Continuing the conversation, Leo expresses his desire to become friends with Kelvin, mentioning his previous encounters with otherworlders, like the heroes of the Holy Empire Doremus, whom Melfina had also reincarnated. Leo explains that the priestess of Doremus foretold the revival of the Demon Lord, and he believes Kelvin can protect the town in the absence of the heroes. Kelvin agrees to Leo's proposal, allowing him to increase his rank and gain assistance on missions. Afterward, the innkeeper, Claire, congratulates Kelvin for reaching B rank in the guild. During lunch in his room, Kelvin learns more about the heroes of Doremus from Melfina. Kelvin discovers that they were chosen based on their appearance and knowledge. With this information, Kelvin decides to retrieve his reward money from Clotho, who he has been using as storage, and sets off to the alleyway to buy a slave that he can train to be a rear guard for his party. In the alleyway, Kelvin recognizes the half-elf he encountered before. The slave trader reveals that nobody wants to buy her due to a curse that burns anyone who touches her. Kelvin appraises her and sees she has been cursed by the Fire Dragon King. Melfina informs Kelvin that the curse can only be broken by an A-rank white magic spell called Sacred Bless. Kelvin leaves but returns later to purchase the half-elf who we learn is named Ethel. On their way back to the inn, Kelvin casts the Sacred Bless spell to break the curse on Ethel, who begins to cry with gratitude. At the inn, Claire dresses Ethel in a maid's outfit, and they all have dinner together. In Kelvin's room, he confesses all his secrets to Ethel and allows her to allocate her skill points as she chooses. The only issue is that there is only one bed that they will have to share, causing Kelvin to have a sleepless night. A month later, they embark on an adventure to the dark purple forest, where they defeat numerous monsters to level up Ethel, who has become a powerful archer. Later at the guild, Kelvin's group reports their defeat of a wicked sage tree to Ange, the guild receptionist. Ange congratulates them and informs them that one more successful quest will allow Kelvin to take the rank up exam to become rank A and Ethel to become rank B. Ange then invites Ethel to a new dessert store the next day. Ethel asks Kelvin if he can come too. Kelvin meets Ange outside by a fountain, and they are joined by Ethel, who is dressed beautifully thanks to Ange's insistence. They buy desserts and sit at a table to enjoy them. Ethel playfully tries to feed Kelvin some cake, drawing attention from onlookers. Ange joins in as well, attracting even more attention. Amidst the commotion, Tabura, the third prince of Trison, and his guards arrive. Tabura shows interest in Ethel and makes a disrespectful demand. Kelvin deals with the guards using his spells and confronts Tabura, who reveals he is looking for a strong adventurer to help him. Kelvin reveals he is the strong adventurer, but refuses to help and demands Tabura leave. Meanwhile, at the Great Temple in the Holy Empire of Doremus, a priestess named Colette prays to Melfina and receives a message instructing the heroes of Doremus to exterminate the evil in the western continent and to stay away from Parth. That night at the inn, Ethel thanks Kelvin for his help, leading to a heartfelt conversation where she expresses her insecurities and love for him. Kelvin reassures her resisting his desires and they go to sleep. The next day, Kelvin reviews the stats of the hero party with Melfina, Gerard, Clotho, and Ethel, and they realize the heroes' levels are lower than expected. Gerard and Ethel then give Kelvin the items they crafted him, and Claire comes to inform them that the guild master wants to speak with him. In the guild master's room, Leo informs Kelvin about a rank D dungeon called the Hermit's Cave, where a powerful demon has been discovered, and Kelvin accepts the quest. Along with his party, Kelvin heads to the Hermit's Cave dungeon, where they encounter a demon woman in chains. Another demon, Archdemon Victor, introduces himself and reveals the woman to be the Demon Lord's daughter. Victor plans to absorb Kelvin's power and break the chains to absorb her power, allowing him to become the next Demon Lord. Victor charges at them but is blocked by Gerard. Victor then summons skeletons which Kelvin and his party defeat. They continue to damage Victor as Gerard cuts off one arm while Ethel shoots the other. Despite their efforts, Victor proves to be a formidable opponent as he transforms into his final form. After some more fighting, Kelvin's party manages to deal significant damage to Victor with a combined attack, defeating him. As Victor lies defeated, he reveals his past as Sarah's caretaker and the reasons behind his actions. In a flashback, Victor's role as Sarah's protector is revealed, and we see the Demon Lord seal Sarah away for her safety and task Victor with protecting her until an era of peace where she could become the next Demon Lord. However, with his defeat, he asks Kelvin's party to take Sarah with them so she could see the world, and Kelvin agrees. After breaking the seal on Sarah, she awakens and expresses her anger and sorrow over Victor and her father's actions. Outside the dungeon, the group tells the other adventurers of their success and reveal that the lady they were carrying was the one possessed by the demon. However, it was just Sarah using a magical hairpin to conceal her wings and horns. Following the successful quest, Kelvin evolves Gerard into an abyssal knight commander. The group then takes Sarah to Parth and show her around. Kelvin reports to the Adventurers Guild about their achievement, leading to his promotion to a rank. The accomplishment is celebrated by the receptionists and other guild members back at the inn. Afterward, Sarah expresses excitement about exploring the outside world and recalls a memory of her time with Victor. Later, Kelvin formally tames Sarah as one of his monsters and showcases the impressive weapons he and Ethel created with their S-rank blacksmithing and sewing skills. While traveling on a wagon towards Torridge, the group faces off against the Black Wind Gang, a notorious group of bandits. Sarah displays her incredible strength, easily defeating the bandits despite being outnumbered. They capture the bandits and learn of their mysterious high-level boss. Arriving in Torridge, the group enjoys the sight of the sea. Sarah expresses her wish to learn how to swim, and Kelvin agrees to teach her. They visit the Adventurers Guild and turn in the captured bandits and meet the guild master, Mist, who had been part of the same party as Leo in the past. Kelvin informs Mist about the situation with the Black Wind Gang, telling her the boss was Trison's famous adventurer Kristoff. Kelvin wants to find the bandits and gets a lead from Sarah's detection skills. Meanwhile, the heroes of Doremus arrive in Torridge and learn about the bandit situation. They want to help the people in need, but Mist urges them to stick to the mission Melfina gave them. Kelvin's party arrives at the bandits' base just in time to stop a horrible act. They then confront the bandit leader, Kristoff, and his accomplices, defeating them. When the heroes of Doremus arrive, they encounter Clotho, who is there to protect the slaves. After talking to the slaves, they head off to find Kelvin's party. They find Kristoff's gang unconscious and find Kelvin's party pretending to be the bandits. The heroes confront Kelvin's group, believing them to be the Black Wind Gang. Kelvin plays along with the accusation. Kelvin proposes a game where he would fight all of them with the loser forced to obey the winner. Toya insists on fighting Kelvin alone, but Setsuna convinces him to face Kelvin with the support of the team. The heroes strategize and Ethel reveals Kelvin's plan to have the heroes testify against Kristoff and his gang if he wins. Kelvin is determined to improve skill fighting against groups and wants to use his new skill Eater gloves, which he created from Victor's armor. The fight begins, and the heroes use their blessings to boost their attack. Toya attacks Kelvin up close, but Kelvin manages to hold him off. Kelvin steals Miyabi's skill parallel processing, causing Toya to attack more aggressively. Kelvin casts spells and uses borrowed skills to counter the heroes' attacks. Setsuna intervenes and pleads with Toya to rely on the team more, which leads to Toya apologizing. The heroes continue their attack, blinding Kelvin with a light fairy. They restrain him with magic, but Kelvin uses his golems and parallel processing to free himself and defeat the hero party one by one. After the fight, Toya awakens and learns the truth about Kelvin's group. He formally apologizes to Kelvin, who accepts the apology but reminds Toya of their agreement. Kelvin then tells the heroes' party to strip, which causes them to freak out. Kelvin, Mist, and a guild receptionist watch as the freed slaves leave on a wagon. Afterward, Mist asks Kelvin about his next plan, and he reveals that he's off to play a fun punishment game. The heroes of Doremus are shown struggling against a giant octopus in a cave. Kelvin observes them while Sarah fishes nearby, and Ethel and Clotho prepare a picnic. Despite Kelvin's advice, the heroes have a hard time defeating the monster. Eventually, they manage to win, and the group enjoys the picnic. During the conversation, the priestess Colette of Doremus is mentioned, and Toya explains how they were summoned to the alternate world by her and met Melfina before arriving. Kelvin asks the heroes how they would fare against an S-class dungeon with their current strength. Toya admits that they would have to run due to their lack of power. Kelvin notes that his actions could cause harm to the people he's sworn to protect, and Toya responds that they would train harder to become stronger. Impressed with Toya's answer, Kelvin tells him he passes the test and goes to help Sarah fight the boss monster of the cave, a sinister dragon. Later, Kelvin's group says goodbye to the heroes as they set sail to their next destination, and Kelvin gives them pendants as going-away presents. After their departure, Gerard asks Kelvin about his thoughts, and Kelvin asks about the country Lysia, which destroyed Gerard's home country, Alcarl. Gerard confirms that Lysia is located on a continent across the sea. Kelvin wonders if they could defeat Lysia in a fight, which Gerard confirms, but Kelvin decides to stay where they are for now. Sarah interrupts them to tell Kelvin that they have been summoned to the castle of Torridge. At the castle they meet with the Queen of Torridge, Tsubaki Fujiwara, who thanks them for their achievements. Tsubaki offers to reward them, and Kelvin asks for the right to purchase rice. Tsubaki grants their request, giving them a lifetime supply, and she holds a banquet for them. Several days later, Tsubaki visits Kelvin, who has been staying in the castle, and Ethel serves them lunch. Tsubaki tries to entice Kelvin to stay in Torridge and take care of her, but he declines. Saying they should return to Parth, and Tsubaki allows them to use Torridge's teleportation gate to get home. Back in Parth, Kelvin purchases a house for the party, and hires 2 of the slaves he rescued, Luca and her mother Ellie, to be house servants. That night, Melfina returns to Kelvin in the avatar body she mentioned earlier, stating that he is now strong enough to summon her. Upon seeing her new form, he begins to blush, thinking he may be in love with her. Later, Melfina finally meets the party in person and gives Kelvin a blessing with 2 effects. The first is to avoid any fatal attacks once a month, and the second to summon heroes. While Melfina and Sarah spar over who will marry Kelvin, Kelvin sits outside wondering if he should summon a hero to come to the world against their will. Melfina joins Kelvin outside and he asks why heroes are important in this world. Melfina explains that demon lords have 2 skills. One to make anyone go insane and the other to make them invincible, but the heroes are immune to the skills. She then suggests he revive a dead hero if it makes him feel better. That night, Kelvin performs a reincarnation summoning and successfully summons a hero named Rio. Rio is grateful to Kelvin for summoning her, but they soon both collapse. Rio's backstory as a sickly individual is revealed, and later outside Kelvin explains his experience being reincarnated. Rio asks to join Kelvin's adventurer party, and he accepts, suggesting they see each other as step-siblings from different lands. Rio happily agrees to this, but Kelvin is unhappy with her name because it reminds him of Leo. So, she says to call her Ryan instead. Kelvin wakes up that night to find Sarah, Mel, and Ryan sleeping with him, and he feels glad about it. Later, he allows Ryan to explore the dark purple forest while he trains Luca and Ellie outside a dungeon using his experience-sharing technique. Kelvin then tames a shadow wolf and introduces it to Luca and Ryan as their new pet. Ord's party arrives, and Kelvin introduces his new party members. Ord's party members become jealous seeing the girls and run away. Outside the forest, Kelvin apologizes to Ord for killing all the monsters, but Ord laughs and tells him not to worry, suggesting he takes his S-rank exam which Leo had set up for him. A few weeks later, Sarah notices the mansion is surrounded by Kristoff's old teammates wanting revenge. Kelvin sends Ryan to deal with them while he watches, commenting to Sarah about Ryan's growth. Meanwhile, at Tryson Castle, Emperor Zell meets with his generals, and they discuss going to war with the 3 neighboring kingdoms. After a coming to a tie, the Emperor sends for his 5th general Clive to break the tie. Clive is then seen in his room surrounded by unconscious women as he is summoned. Back in Parth, Kelvin receives a special quest from Leo as his promotion test. The quest is from Leonhard Gon, the king of Gon, asking Kelvin to defend an elven village from an S-ranked monster. Kelvin accepts and his group rushes to the Crest Forest southwest of Gon. While traveling, the group begins to suspect Tryson's involvement when they are attacked by elven archers. Kelvin tells them to stop as they were just there to help, and the village elder, Nellas, appears telling his archers to stand down. Nellas is shocked by Ethel, thinking it is his daughter Lumil. In the village, Nellas tells the story of Lumil, who calmed a fire dragon's rage and left with it, promising to become its bride. Lumil was found dead years later, and the elves then fled to Gon. Nellas continues to reveal that the village is now threatened by monsters that kidnap the elves. Kelvin and his party agree to help the village, and Kelvin creates a stone barrier to protect it. That night, monsters from Tryson attack the village, but Kelvin's party defeats them one by one. Meanwhile, Mel and Ryan encounter a giant lord summoned by Tryson's commander. Ryan takes it down with a triple sword attack to prove herself to Kelvin, but the giant awakens its true form. Aggravated, Ryan uses another triple strike and defeats the monster. At the barrier, Kelvin and Ethel are confronted by General Clive, who wants Ethel to become his slave. Kelvin attacks Clive to protect Ethel and appraises him, realizing he is also from another world. Kelvin tells Ethel to retreat while turning the tower into spears to attack Clive. Clive stops them with his helix barrier and sends his guards to attack Kelvin. Ethel breaks Clive's helix barrier from below, and Kelvin summons 4 golems to help him. The battle continues until Clive breaks Kelvin's staff and begins to use his strongest spell, but Kelvin manages to break Clive's spell and cut off his legs with his S-rank staff. However, before Kelvin can finish him off, General Tristan teleports Clive away, revealing himself as the mastermind behind the attacks as he teleports away. Back in Tryson, Clive is tortured by his soldiers as part of Tristan's experiments on reincarnated people. Meanwhile, the elven village celebrates as Kelvin and his group meet the King of Gon, who congratulates him on passing his S-rank test, and tells him about the S-rank promotion ceremony that includes a mock battle against other S-rank adventurers, which gets Kelvin excited. That is where this season ends. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more.